Yeah, good afternoon, I guess. It's 1 minute into the afternoon, everyone. Nice to see everyone today. This is the October meeting of the Engineers and Architects Hawaii. And I want to welcome you to, I think this is Sam's program. So thank you very much, Sam, for putting this together, and welcome our guests, Andrew, and returning members, Bill and Martin and Michael Krijnen. I hope Maria comes on. I don't see her. Oh yeah, there she
is.
Nice woman.
Hi.
Thank you all for being here. Maybe Phil will get on here soon. Let's start the meeting. I don't have a, okay, I have a little, my back scratcher. I'll just gavel it in. There we go. Gavelled in. Martin, do you usually start off with something funny, right?
Well, peculiar, or usually peculiar.
Oh, okay.
But I'll give it a try today, because this came to me just recently, and it kind of smacks of Joe Theismann type quote. It says, "I hate it when people act all intellectual and talk about Mozart while they haven't even seen one of his paintings." That's the end of the humor.
Thank you, Martin. What's next on the agenda? Sam, is it to just continue the program?
Why don't I get started on just going over how I'm planning to have the forum go. I have 3 questions, and I'm gonna try and ask the speakers to speak for 2 to 3 minutes. And then if they're speaking over 3 minutes, I'll try and ask them to summarize so that we can get everybody in. And then we'll go into a panel discussion between the panel, and then we'll go to questions and answers. So I'm going to go in the order of Bill, Maria, Rob, and Andrew. I think we're ready to go. Okay, first question. How has COVID-19 impacted how your office operates, and how do you maintain communication? Bill, you're first up.
Okay, well, how has COVID impacted our office? Well, we have had to do a number of things to go back to the office. And some of them is we have a facial recognition scanner that also takes temperatures and also recognizes whether you have a mask on or not. And that is being connected to our keypad to get into the office. So the scanner has to recognize you, the scanner has to know that you don't have a temperature and recognize you have a mask on, then it'll unlock the door. Otherwise, you can't even get back in there. We've been working remote since beginning of March, actually, because we sent everybody home 2 weeks before the state mandated everybody work from home. And at that time, we were in the process of trying to redesign our office, trying to put more seats in there. And so now we've learned how to work from home, and you know, so that's the next question. What are we going to do when we get back? You know, but you know, so yeah, maintaining communications is via Zoom meetings, which I am learning to detest. I get these moments of Zoom brain deadness, and have to just you know, take an afternoon off. So, but maintaining communications is really difficult. As an architect in a firm that's over 100 now, we have a lot of young people, and it is literally impossible to mentor these people, you know, and so I'm really worried about that. So, you know, we need to get back in the office. Our office is does allow people to go back to the office, but only in phases. We have working, our workspaces face each other. So on Monday, Tuesday, everybody that faces one way comes in, and on Tuesday, Thursday, the other people come in, and on Fridays, nobody goes in. We do have people that want to work there full time because they don't have air conditioning or they don't have a good computer or whatever. And so there's, they're assigned a little, one of our conference rooms so that they can be there and work safely.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Maria, can you take over?
Sure. Hi, Maria Tome. Yeah, we also started working from home in March, and fortunately, we all had laptops. This is not always the case with state agencies, but fortunately, that decision had been made that everybody would have laptops. And so when it came time to work from home, we had the laptops with the Wi-Fi. I guess the tricky thing is the desktops don't have Wi-Fi, so you actually would have to attach a cable. And so we've been adjusting to it. I really miss the people, but on the other hand, I can put mint chocolate chip ice cream in my tea during my breaks, so it's kind of fun. Some of those, we have it set up because of being so successful at working from home that we're not allowed to go in the office unless we have a specific reason and we get approval from the supervisor. I did have a question for Bill on the facial recognition software that recognizes you. Are you wearing your face mask when it does that? Because my phone is unable to do that. So anyway, I guess maybe during the question. Wow,
yes,
cool.
Yes, it does.
Let's get this to Apple. Seriously. Anyway.
I'm not sure how our IT guy did it, but
good. Wow, awesome. Anyway, that's another story. But we have it's kind of hard because at the office, everybody had extra monitors and whatnot attached to the dock. And so when we started working from home, people pretty much just took their laptops. They didn't take the whole setup and set it up at home. So there is a tendency to want to come back into the office for the folks who haven't, taken that next step of just making their home workspace as effective as possible. But we do Zoom and Teams. We have Teams. Everything is on Teams. And so if Microsoft has a problem, everything comes to a screeching halt. But I do like to be able to see, like everybody's calendar. It's actually more efficient even, and it's good to be able to figure out when folks will be available. And I think one of the things that really worked was the first couple of weeks when we were working from home, we had a protocol where when you logged on, you sent emails to everybody saying, hi, I'm here. And I think that simple act really enforced that, yes, this is working time. We are acknowledging each other. We are reconnecting at this time. And then when you were done, you logged off. You sent an email to everybody, bye. After a while, people got tired of that, but I do think it was very effective in establishing that structure. And we can still do stuff like that. In fact, we're scheduled, because everybody can see everybody's calendar, you can see, you're scheduled solid from morning to evening. And we're going to way too many meetings. I mean, it used to be, it took an hour because you'd have to transport yourself to a meeting, have the meeting, and then transport yourself back. And so you did not have this constant stream of meetings. And so to a certain extent, I think Zoom fatigue will eventually convince folks to get a handle on that. Yeah, we don't have to drive, but you do need a time in your day when you can think about what you've just discussed and you can decompress and shift gears a little more. And so, for example, instead of scheduling 1 hour meetings, we're doing 45-minute meetings. So you start on the hour and you try to keep it to 45 minutes so that you have a break before the next before the next meeting. Or if it's a half-hour meeting, you can set it to be 20 minutes as a default. That's in Teams anyway. I forget where exactly it is, but those types of things acknowledge that we do need to have build in the breaks that we used to get by walking from one place to another or finding a conference room. So that's about it for me. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Maria. Next is Andrew. No, next is Rob. Rob, can you share with us your experience?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I've been working from home for a while. You know, I'm kind of like a mixed 1099 W-2 guy for the last several years. So sometimes I'm working for somebody and other times I'm working for myself. So I guess I already have a lot of experience doing this kind of remote stuff, although Zoom fatigue is a real thing. But I have to say that time management is kind of an important new aspect. In other words, Maria talked about how the breaks between meetings or the travel time was a time to decompress and get back to the analog world. But even like the time for technology to boot up, you know, you have to build in time for there to be problems with bandwidth or, you know, problems with your hair or, you know, oh, I spilled something on my shirt. Now what am I going to do? I got to get a new shirt, you know, because tops are more important than bottoms at this point, you know, as we all know. So I guess for me, it's like 3 areas or maybe 2 areas that this has impacted me. It's my personal time, the blending of personal time and the professional practice. And as a 1099 worker, you know, networking is really important, reaching out, doing business development. And so business development's really hard during this time because how do you network in a time of Zoom where you got to get somebody to accept your Zoom invite before you can even talk to them? And so you have to learn how to blend phone calls and emails and Zoom all together. And 2020 was the first time that I've actually had exclusively a digital calendar as opposed to either a blend or just a analog calendar. So now I've switched to an exclusive digital calendar, and that has really helped me to actually manage my time a little bit better. But I'm here because I want to hear more about what people think about business development. Is like, how do we network during these times? How do we even kind of understand what other people are doing? You know, hot mic mistakes. You know, you got to be aware of whether you're on or off, because you know, somebody can walk by in your house, or if you don't have privacy and you share a household, or you know, or your dog comes up and jumps on your lap, or your cat, you know, goes meow. Hot mic mistakes are really interesting, and we have to just. What I really like about this time is it seems like people are treating each other with compassion and empathy a lot more, and that for me is leadership, but it also is just humanity, and I'm happy about that that lowering of judgment that people have about each other, and that really makes me feel better because I'm the eldest of 11, so I've had to cultivate those things over my lifetime anyway. And so anyway, I'm happy that people are more tolerant of the mistakes that kind of creep into our lives. But anyway, I think that's about it for me. You know, I do a fair bit of mentoring to young students. So, you know, micromanagement just doesn't work in a digital world. It's really hard to get people to pay attention and at the same time, you know, follow exactly instructions. So you got to really be a little bit more hands off, and that gives people the opportunity to adjust and kind of build their own leadership qualities and their own proactivity. So for me, it's been a mixed bag, and I would say that everything everybody else has said has been quite important, and I think that's about it for me until later. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Andrew, can you share with us, your experiences, and unmute yourself?
Sure, I'll share with myself, yeah. So one of the reasons why I use a background like this is precisely what Rob pointed out about not getting interrupted. So I think that's probably a good technique you can use if you're worried about actually being interrupted and having to share with potential interruptions in the back. So it's a good tip to use if you don't want to be interrupted. So to answer this question directly, I actually, similar to Rob, I also have done a lot of consulting over the years, primarily for startups with W-2 and 1099 work. And so I've been used to working in an office, but most of my staff, most of the developers that I managed were remote, actually in different countries. So a lot of the teams that I helped manage over the years for some of the startups I worked with in the Bay Area were, their teams were based in Eastern Europe or, on the East Coast of the US or in Europe. And so having to manage that, I've been used to it. We've used other tools. Zoom wasn't so popular before, as popular as it is now. But I've been used to actually collaborating with remote teams for many years, usually with Meet and other video conferencing tools like, I think back in the day, I used to use Skype, which I still do. And then another popular tool that some of you may be familiar with is Slack. It's extremely popular with remote teams especially. And so if you don't use Slack, I highly recommend it. It's a great way to basically keep in touch with a distributed workforce. So I was used to this remote working environment before the COVID-19 shutdown started to happen in March. But after that, basically everything that I did went on complete remote using Zoom. So I've been using Zoom, probably at one point I was using Zoom and related technologies more than 10 times a week. So I'm very familiar with Zoom fatigue. I also did some consulting for Amazon for a while, and they had a similar product. I think they called it Chime, which is their own video conferencing tool. And not as good as Zoom in my opinion, but that was the tool that we were all required to use connecting. And that entire project was done completely remote. So I was working out of my home every day on that for a while. And that was over the summer. So that was a short project for them over the summer that I helped with. So yeah, I think one of the hardest things to deal with Zoom is to understand some of the cues that you miss in a personal meeting. So often when you're in a virtual setting like this, it's harder to pick up certain cues, which are obvious when you're actually in a meeting in person. So you do have to try harder to like raise your hand, use some of the tools that Zoom offers to make a point, put yourself on mute when you're not speaking, and make sure that when you start speaking, take yourself off mute. And I think that's a common habit that we still need to get used to develop. So that's it for me. Thanks, Sam. You want to go on to the next question?
Okay.
I changed my background a little bit. I found this little cartoon, and I can't figure out how to get it in there, and it's also mirror image. But the guy on the right is talking to his wife, saying, I don't know what happened to all my students. And she's saying, dear, that's the microwave.
Okay.
That's Zoom fatigue right there. Sorry.
Okay. Well, question 2 is what has worked well and what has not worked well? So, Bill, I'll let you start.
I can't say anything has gone well, but you know, when you're in the office, you have that contact with your team members that is accidental. You walking by to the bathroom or to the drinking fountain or just walking by their desks, and it's, you know, sparks. Oh, I need to talk to him about something, and you know, we've lost that. So I find myself dropping a lot of balls that I'm supposed to be working on because I don't have that constant reminder from my team that, you know, of things that we need to be working on, you know. So that's a big issue. The stuff that's at my office that was put in is probably okay, except for the fact that I have a medical exemption and cannot wear a mask. So as long as they're requiring that, because they require your mask to get in, they require your mask when you're moving around the office, but you can only take it off when you're sitting down. And I can't, I have a medical exemption for that. And yeah, there's probably things that I could do, but I'm getting ready to retire anyway. So, you know, so yeah, and I mentioned the mentoring before. That's very, very difficult. And you know, the other difficulty I have is that I've got my laptop where right now I'm on my laptop CPU, but I can VPN into my computer at the office, and we changed our whole phone system to Microsoft Teams. So when I get a call, it comes in on my computer. I have to figure out, okay, am I on my desktop or am I on my laptop? Because if I'm on my desktop and I answer it, the computer thinks that the audio and the video is at my office. Well, that's where it is. So nobody can hear me and they can't, I can see everything, but we can't communicate with each other. So, you know, more times than I care to admit, I've answered a phone only to send them a chat message. Sorry, I will pick up on my laptop next time you call back. So those are the you know, the biggest challenges for me. Other than when you're sitting home working all the time, that's what you usually do. You don't get up to go, you know, do anything else. Because usually when you're at the office, you at least go downstairs at lunch and you walk down to get your lunch. You're outside. You know, see people, and here I'm sit at my desk most of the day. Jennifer brings me my breakfast and lunch, and my bathroom is like 3 steps away. So it's yeah, the end of the week is pretty hard for me. I usually at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I have to lay down, and next thing I see, it's like 8 o'clock.
Okay, Bill, thanks. Maria, good and bad.
Hey, thanks. I agree. I really miss the people, you know, the encounters with folks and, you know, chatting and catching up with what's going on in the informal basis. Because when you have to go through setting up a meeting every time you even see anybody, you know, you don't bother unless you really have a lot to talk about that's work related. So you don't have that opportunity to share the ideas or, you know, those types of things. I really miss that. One thing I do like is being able to share your screen. You know, you can actually real time edit the document together while discussing the changes. I really like that. I've been trying to do that in meetings prior to this. You know, you take your laptop and you have the projector and you're editing, and you know, I'm the only one who tried to do that, generally speaking, but now everybody does. It's great. I think it's much more productive. Instead of having a meeting to talk about the changes that you're going to make and then sending out things, you know, the draft that supposedly captured it, you're just doing it right there and reaching agreement right there. I like that. So I guess that's about it. Those are the two the highlight and the low and the low light. I miss the people, but I like being able to real-time work in the digital world with others.
Okay, thank you, Maria. Rob, pluses and minuses.
Thank you for that reminder. Well, the pluses are, of course, that I can run my schedule pretty much as I see fit now. I mean, like Andrew, we both been working remotely for a while, but that's a real plus. Also, like Maria just said, the collaborations is just, the ease of collaboration right now. I'm working with the Hawaii Bioeconomy Trade Organization, and I can just sit down, have a meeting, and do the edits right there, and have them approved in short. So that speeds up so much better. The actually access is a little bit more, like I do have more access to my coworkers on projects, because I can just text them, set up a meeting if necessary, or handle it on text, or say, hey, can you just bring somebody over to because they're usually in an office, can you just both sit in the same room and talk to me real quickly? So that kind of thing really works. But the things that don't work so much are the visual cues, like understanding. You have to be a lot more explicit about instructions. People tend to use body language and cues of approval in face-to-face meetings and to get their point across. But now I have to say, I need you to give me written directions if you're going to send me an email and expect me to get something done, because I can't see you, so it's a little bit easier to say to people, I need more explicit instructions. But it's harder too at the same time. And then the last thing, the thing that hasn't worked really for me is just synchronicity. The face-to-face conversations that happen in the office just don't happen anymore. Everybody's scheduled to the max. So, and even my friends, like it's impacted my friends, because I don't have time for them because I'm in meetings all day long, and even now you can schedule meetings in the evening. And so my dog is a little bit, upset with me as well. So, but fortunately she's pretty insistent and she has a timeline, so she knows what she wants. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Rod. Andrew, pluses and minuses.
So I want to echo what Maria said about the pluses and minuses. When you're online like this with Zoom and other tools, it's a lot easier to collaborate and share documents and actually work on something in real time. So I find actually Skype is actually very useful for that. The original Skype that is still around, believe it or not. And so I've been using that a lot to collaborate with some of my other teammates. And we were able to work on a document on the fly using hosted on Google Drive, so it works pretty well. And like Maria, I miss the in-person interaction. Oftentimes when you have an idea or you just think of something and you can brainstorm with someone in the office if they're right there. And it's harder, I have to pick up a phone and call someone or Skype them if they're available, and sometimes they're not available. And so then you lose the thought. So I have to write it down or put it somewhere so we can all remember it. But it's better when you can do that in person for sure. But the tools, the sharing tools that are available in these systems, I think do make it easier to collaborate. It would be harder in an in-office setting to do that. Even if you have the computer, I find that it wasn't easy when I was doing that in an office. We had to go to a separate room and actually project on this bigger projector. And then, you had to figure out if the computer is set up properly. And then you spend like 15 minutes figuring out, oh, I didn't have the right connection. I have to put in the right password. And And then, 15 minutes of your half an hour or an hour meeting has gone by already, just trying to get that set up. Or maybe someone else was scheduled for that time and you didn't pick the right application to schedule the time. So anyway, yeah, so pluses and minuses. That's it for me. Thanks, Sam.
Okay. The thing about this is interesting in that this happened in that we actually had these tools already developed and now we're using them for this operation. So going forward, the last question is, how will we or may COVID-19 changes how we work after COVID-19? Are we going to continue to work this way? Or are we going to say, I'm not going to ever have any more Zoom meetings? Bill?
Well, I think for Architects Hawaii AHL, before March of this year, we were looking for more office space, and now we don't need it. So yes, Zoom meetings and stuff is here to stay. I took your question, Sam, as a little differently. I'm a code guy, and so I mean the masks and the temperature scanners and all that stuff is fine and dandy for most people, So I was appointed to a AIA National Committee for Codes and Standards, and we started looking at some of the building codes that are out there, and it dawned on me, we can change the building codes to make it so that our interior environments are much safer. And I've done some hospital work, so you go in and do isolation rooms and operating rooms. They always have mercury vapor lights in the ductwork because that produces a UV light that kills viruses and bacteria. And so, and then I got a email from Howard about this webinar about UV lights for UV lights to kill bacteria in and around spaces, and so there was two of those webinars that came on. The technology's there, the cost is coming down significantly, and last year this time one of our employees came back from maternity leave and she ended up catching the flu, and she came in and she was sick as a dog. And she didn't want to go home because she had no PTO left. And so she ended up getting 15 to 20% of the office. We had 86 people at the time. And had there been something for airborne pathogen control built into the mechanical system, that would have been reduced significantly, and so I think we can do the same thing with COVID or any other airborne pathogen. So we're focusing right now on the performance code, the ICC performance code, and people on our committee, they have seats in the ICC mechanical code and electrical code. So what we're trying to do is provide requirements for airborne pathogen control through air conditioning systems, as well as interior lighting. The lighting that we use for the inside ductwork is a lot more effective in killing 99.9% of everything. But that light is harmful to humans, so we can't use that on where that light will land on you. So there are other ultraviolet lights that are better for humans, but they're also not as effective for controlling viruses. But I think if we stop the viruses from being recirculated through a whole office, that'll go a long way in making the place as virus-free as we can. And I think that'll help really reduce the number of cases of whatever.
Okay, Bill, thanks. Maria, what do you think is going to stick around in the future?
I think definitely Zoom meetings or, the Teams meetings will stick around, because not only are you able to work on documents real time, but you've got your auxiliary brain with you. I mean, in the old fashioned, you go to a meeting and you may have your laptop with you, but you're not busy looking stuff up on it while you're meeting with folks. Whereas this way you can have your documents there to refer to, you prep for the meeting, you're not, distracting anybody, but you have the information there. Like I said, it's my auxiliary brain. I like having access to that, plus you've got your cell phone and you can be texting people, hey, what's your, so I think being able to multitask in that way that's effective and also, not distracting to the people in your meetings will probably continue. And, not having to go to meetings in person, I think that will also be, because parking is probably going to be an issue again someday, so I expect that will continue. And now that everybody's been forced to learn how to use this stuff, it's a toolbox, you can just do it. You're not worried about folks not being able to. They've had to learn it. So I think that'll definitely continue.
Okay, thanks. Rob?
Yeah, I'm a filmmaker, so what Maria just said about, what's out of the frame is just as important as what's not, what's in the frame. And so, for example, I was taking notes while you guys were talking, just, I got a text. So, focus on the camera. What will continue is that we, as participants in these remote meetings, really being aware of what's in the frame is so important to our persona and what we project into the meeting. Secondly, I'm a public speaker, so I've had to adapt my approach to speaking by setting up a studio in my own office for sustainable business development. And so, technology is so important, having your background correct and having your clothing correct and having there's a lot more focus on the person as opposed to on the space around the person. So the space that the frame of the screen is enclosing is a lot more tightly focused on you. And so I think that we'll learn how to, as a public speaker, I use my hands a lot. So I'm not using my green screen today, so you can see that my background doesn't really keep up with my hands. So, but I'm not as concerned about that today. But so, these kind of things where, eventually we'll have a hologram perhaps that will project our images so we can put on whatever clothing we want. I'm going way out into the future and talking about Star Trek type things. So, those kind of things where we end up kind of being focused on much more on what we're projecting and how we're projecting our message is going to be, I think, key to communications, virtual communications. Excuse me. The last thing I want to say is that this thing that Bill brought up about interior spaces, I think we've all become a lot more focused on public spaces at becoming much more healthy. We've never really considered that what comes out of our mouth is also pollution, to other people. And now we have to really be aware that if we are infectious, we're going to hurt other people by doing that. And so this idea of HEPA filters or UV light in the ductwork, flexible ducts, air circulation patterns, all of this is going to be important for commercial real estate and shared spaces going forward.
Okay, thanks. Andrew, you're next, and then I think we'll go to an open question and answers for everybody, and we'll let Phil and Howard and Michael come in. Andrew.
So I don't think things will change for my particular situation that much once the COVID-19 restrictions are lifted where I am. I'll still continue to work remotely. I'll still continue to have meetings on Zoom, Skype, Meet, Slack, whatnot. I mean, most of the people that I work with are, halfway around the world right now anyway. So it's not like I can meet with them in person, even if but that being said, I do participate in other events that do require me to meet in person. So I'm part of Toastmasters in San Francisco. And so once that's lifted, we're going to be able to have in-person meetings, which I think will be helpful. I'm looking forward to that. Just literally being able to gather together is something I really miss, So I'll take every chance I can. But in terms of what I do for work, it's probably not going to change all that much from what I'm doing now.
Phil, do you want to come in here and ask a question or give a statement?
Yes, on the 23rd, we had 15 people, and we each had a chance to just talk the personal impact. And this is great that we're seeing the specifics of how Zoom is incorporated into our business and our life. I'm looking in future meetings that we have, whether we're doing them at the noontime and we're sitting in the office together. Some of the things I've been practicing with folks that are been fairly clever in doing walk and talk tours in a video way, and to see how some of the colleges are using students in an internship role, describing things for an audience, but it's a number of people that not just show a face, but actually then switch the camera around, and they're not tied to the laptop and are able to walk through an office or walk through a lab experiment. And that kind of additional dynamic presentation is something I hope we'll do later this year, COVID or now COVID. Thanks.
Okay, thanks. Howard, do you want to share with us some of your ideas?
Yeah, I'm the lighting guy or lighting efficiency guy for the state. So I've been in the field for a long, long time. And as soon as this hit, I immediately began to think of UV, ultraviolet lighting. And there's UV A, B, C, and UVC has the shortest wavelengths. You're way down to from 200 to 280 nanometers. And so we put on with Hawaii Energy, we put on a webinar just generally on UVC lighting. And we had 235 people. We reached out to the business world, especially to the hospitality industry, because they need to literally clean up their spaces. And then we put on a more specific UVC webinar on pulsed lighting. And I won't go into the physics of that, but we got 265 people. This is an area of high interest. Next, we're going to do another takeoff on this. It's called upper room UVC lighting, where the light fixtures are close to the ceiling and the beams are going across right under the ceiling. And you presumably have good air circulation in this space such that all those nasty COVIDs that are coming out of people's mouths eventually are drifting up right under the ceiling, and zap, they are broken right there. So it's really, that technology is really good for areas where you have a whole lot of people. And that's exactly when the COVID spreads the worst. The best analogy that we've been able to come up with in the field is cigarette smoke. Think of somebody inhaling and then exhaling, and all this smoke comes out. And apparently the COVID has a similar pattern of aerosols, the teeny little quantum-sized water particles. And then when we get through with that, I've been introduced to air filters. And you happen to have one of your speakers, Ms. Maria, who is Ms. Air Filter Incorporated. And if you have the pukas in the air filter 3 microns or less, and if you have, you can even combine it with UVC lighting also, you can filter out a whole lot and zap a whole lot of COVID. And the advantage to that is you can put that darn filter anywhere you want, where you think the greatest concentration of COVID will be. So hopefully this will take off like a wildfire. I hope nobody's in California, and make spaces much safer so that we can get our visitor industry back and get people back to work. That is my vision of the post-COVID future. Thank you very much.
I am in California, by the way.
Oh, didn't mean.
There was a big hint with my background. I don't know if anyone caught that. So a picture of San Francisco Gate in the background.
Thought it was the bridge in Honolulu.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, Michael, do you want to unmute your microphone and give us your thoughts? You're all masked up there, I see.
Yes, I am all masked up. This is for Bill. Bill, if you've got a problem with breathing, this is what you need to get. This is a personal filter. This is a personal filter that has its own HEPA filter here. It has 3-speed fan. It connects to the mask by a magnet here. It has a little thing here that spits out clean air.
Okay, Michael. Yeah, Phil, I'm going to, it's 5 minutes to 12. I'm going to turn it over to you. We've had a 55-minute meeting here, and some of us were on before. So Phil, it's you can take it away and do what you want.
Thank you. I would like to just pose like a survey question, because it's my hope in the future that as an organization, we will do more in developing surveys, not only of our own membership, but our website will be an attraction to others to post comments and get additional feedback to the kind of things that we're doing. And in this case, I'll make a real simple one. Joe Biden came out and said, we're wearing our masks as a patriotic duty, not to protect ourselves, but to protect others from us. I'd like a show of hands of some sort. How many believe that the masks protect us? Because Joe Biden has said it doesn't protect us, it's protecting the rest of the world. And he makes that as a strong statement. How much? So how about let's having a show of hands that we really believe we get protection from wearing the mask?
Well, I think there's 3 questions there. I think, does it protect us? Does it protect them? Or what's the third one? But anyway, them and us.
No, well, actually, Joe Biden is binary, is saying he's not saying we're wearing it to protect ourselves. So I'm just, how many of us have bought into that we're wearing it now as a patriotic duty, and next week it'll be a law throughout the state of Hawaii with fines if you're not, no matter where you are, in the woods, camping, whatever you're doing, everyone in Hawaii is to wear a mask. So my question is, when you have only 3% of those tested even show that they are a threat to someone else. So let's put that into perspective. Do we want that much of the population to be wearing them with the concept that that's doing the right thing? Or should we be demanding a greater statement that's scientifically justified that we're getting good protection from the mask? I don't. So I'll show my vote is that I don't think the mask is giving us the great protection for ourselves. It may keep a COVID infected person from spreading it as quickly.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Unless it's an N95 mask. N95 mask, I think, provides some protection for you, or the mask that Michael was showing us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not convinced that the mask actually protects us from the germs. I think there might be some, but it's anecdotal, right? Do we have any like real tests to show that the mask actually prevents the spread of the virus to others? We're just taking Fauci's word for it. But I don't know.
And I'm finding so many folks are not happy with the whole concept of the mask when they make that kind of a conclusion that Biden has come up with. And
the other aspect to wearing masks is that the human body is made up of hundreds of thousands of viruses and bacteria, and we need those to keep our immune system up.
Exactly.
And when we start putting the mask on,
you're
not getting the viruses we need to keep our immune system high. So
so it actually lowers our immune system.
Yes, and so this flu season is going to be very interesting.
So I don't hear much talk of that. We're so the the government, both the federal, state, and local, have championed this, having us all wear masks and keeping us isolated. And the question I have is, what if we had taken Sweden's approach, where they didn't shut down their entire economy? They basically kept reasonable protocols, but they didn't prevent people from meeting. They were just more cautious about it. And I think they're doing fine.
All right. Hey, thank you. I know we're heading toward the end now. And
one more.
Yes.
One more. Okay. I thought that I had the virus. I had a headache. I sneezed. I coughed. I had a little bit of diarrhea. And I went to an article that was sent to me in May by a man that talked about Thailand and South Korea and why they had so few people. And his thought on it was that they used neti pots. Neti pots are used for nasal rinsing. So I went and got half hydrogen peroxide, half water, and I gave myself a nasal rinse. Had one little more run-in with diarrhea, and then I went 2 days later and got tested for COVID, and I don't have it.
I have one short story to say, and that'll just be, I met Carl Sagan a number of years ago when I was a younger man. And I went up to him at this event that was celebrating the Soviet cosmonauts, and he was there. And so I got a chance to go talk to him, and I asked him, I said, what do you think would be, a good approach for educating our children and making sure that everybody has good education? What's the best topic to educate children in? And he said, physics. It's all physics. And he turned around and walked away. And I said, my answer to everyone's question about these masks is it's about physics. And if you understand physics and particle flow and aerodynamic flow like I do, that provides some of the answer for me. Depends on what mask you wear.
Yeah, so I think if you want to,
I would call, hold on now. I would call your Sagan and raise you Plato, who said, every mask works in both directions. Do we want it to work in both directions? That's Plato.
Excellent thought. And then Bill, your thought, and then Michael, is I have not heard of one doctor saying that they have a little kit that they can walk into a crowd, which they're saying is doing bad things, and just take a sample of the air after that crowd has been assembled for a while and give any proof that there was some contagion in that air. And until we get to that stage, you're going to have folks that say, why are you restricting me to go to church or otherwise, and not giving us a tool just to measure the quality of air in where we are? And would people feel, is there anyone here that knows of any organization or equipment that has been able to make that kind of determination?
They're not
Michael
the air
here, so maybe you can invent something.
Who's talking? Am I talking? Oh.
Yeah, you're talking.
It's my hand raising. They're doing it in sewage. They measure the sewage, and they can, if they detect the COVID virus, then they know that where those pipes are coming from, that the infected group is there. So they're not as, you know, it would be nicer to walk around with something in the air, but no, you got to work with sewage.
Well, thank you very much, Sam, for putting this together and for everybody to contribute. Aloha. And our next meeting, Sam, is at what date? And
It's the 23rd.
okay, and
And
lunchtime
Sam
one.
Danaway is going to be talking to us about the Chinatown fires. And it's interesting that one of the fires was in an answer to a pandemic, and that they were trying to burn out Chinatown to kill a pandemic. And he'll probably tell us about that.
That's a good final comment. Thanks, everybody. The
Aloha.
meeting is now adjourned.
Aloha.